Let's go back to Manus Island now. It's been a top story this evening. We've been covering it from all angles, really. Let's go to the opposition view now. National is saying that the new government's pressure that they're putting on Australia over resettling some refugees from Manus Island, well, they're claiming it's hurting New Zealand's relationship with its closest ally. New Zealand's offer to take 150 men from the offshore detention centre, it's still on the table, and the government has also pledged, remember, $3 million towards their care. But a report in the media today, this was in the Australian Financial Review, it claims some asylum seekers travelled out of the centre to engage in sexual activity with children as young as 10 years old. Now, questions have also been raised about whether many are legitimate refugees. National's immigration spokesperson Simon Bridges, member whose party initiated the offer of New Zealand taking 150 UN-mandated refugees from offshore detention centres. He says if the Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern really wanted to help, she'd take more than 150 and she'd leave Australia out of it.
There's no question that the allegations are very concerning. I mean, be clear, I obviously don't know whether they're all true, some of them are true, or what the actual factual position is. Look, I believe we have got good screening processes, but I think ultimately you'd have to say from everything you've heard, given those, let's call them bad eggs, that are allegedly there, also given that, you know, it's very questionable how many of these are actually legitimate refugees in terms of the UN Convention. You know, there's a lot of questions here that I think ultimately mean it is a concerning situation. It's concerning that we've got a government that's ratcheting up the expectations around us taking some of them.
And we'll move to that in a second, because that diplomatic strand is important. But obviously you as a national government formally were satisfied enough that you could accept 150 genuine and screened refugees because you made the offer and it was on the table for the thick end of 4 years, right?
Well, that's right. Look, I mean, we have had a policy of 750, moved that to 1,000 genuine legal refugees. This would have been part of that. It's a long-standing offer. Now, of course, what we know is Australia never took that offer up, and I don't think, in fact, I'm absolutely certain that is not going to change in these circumstances.
So was that the position when you were in power, that you made the offer expecting it not to be taken up?
Well, look, I wasn't the minister. I mean, I think it was a genuine offer, so let's be clear about that. But I think what's important here is that what was also true is they were to be legal refugees under the convention. I'm making quite clear, especially given what we're hearing in the Australian media, to some extent the New Zealand media this morning. There's a real question about whether they would meet those criteria right now. And what is also true and became quickly apparent is the Australians weren't going to take that up, and that still seems to be absolutely the case right now.
Okay.
So you have to say on the basis of all of that, well, you know, we've got a position where the new government is really ratcheting up the rhetoric. Actually, nothing's changed factually, though I can see they still go with our long-standing offer. Australia isn't going to do it. So all you're doing is succeeding in damaging New Zealand-Australian relationship, the relationship, and the only purpose I can see for that is for domestic political consumption.
Do you think that the New Zealand government should withdraw its offer of 150 refugees?
No, I think, look, in terms of the offer, providing they're genuine legal refugees, which was always our position, it's a legitimate offer. It's been long-standing. I think withdrawing it now would be the wrong thing to do. But I think to ratchet up the rhetoric, to put more pressure on an Australian position, which actually has legitimacy, is the wrong thing to do. It's damaging the relationship. And more than that, given that we know it's not going to be accepted, and Labor has to know that, actually there seems to me to be some relatively cynical sort of politics going on here. If Labor was serious about this, actually what they'd be looking to do is, you know, potentially look to take more than 150. They'd be looking to act unilaterally without reference to Australians. Be very clear, I think, for the cost, for the complexity of all the issues we're talking about, I don't agree with doing that. But I think the fact that they're not actually doing that, they're actually just sticking with the offer we made several years ago, I think start of 2014, shows that this is all for domestic political consumption. And the problem with that is it's damaging our relationship with our closest friend.
That's Simon Bridges, who is the National Party immigration spokesman.